Hey everyone. Tonight we don't begin in a battlefield or a nightclub. We begin in a lab, bright, sterile, and sleepless. A crystal hums under the light, small enough to fit in your palm, powerful enough to rewrite human limits. It kept soldiers awake through war, students through exams, and workers through decades. But somewhere between ambition and addiction, meth became the engine of a world that forgot how to rest. From Hitler's injections to biker garages and cartel jungles, it built an empire fueled by exhaustion and lit by neon. No parades, no heroes just shaking hands, blue veins, and a planet running out of breath. So tell me, if you could take one pill to stay awake, create more, and never feel tired again, would you swallow it? Comment below. I'm curious how many of us would. And if stories of forgotten empires and sleepless minds keep you curious, hit subscribe and stay awake with me. Imagine, if you will, a quiet laboratory in Berlin, the year 1887. Gas lamps cast a soft, flickering glow over polished wooden benches and an array of glassware. The air, cool and still, carries the faint, nostalgic scent of mild chemicals, a testament to pure scientific curiosity. Here, a man named Lazar Edelianu, his movements precise and unhurried, carefully combines elements, not with malicious intent, but with the quiet dedication of an alchemist seeking understanding. He's not pursuing power or profit. He's simply observing, hypothesizing, discovering. And in this serene space, from the intricate dance of molecules, something new emerges: amphetamine. You see it, perhaps, as a subtle shimmer in a flask, an almost imperceptible shift. It's the first man-made stimulant, not born of vice, but of the calm, unwavering human desire to peel back the layers of the unknown. You feel the gentle hum of potential, a quiet energy stirring within the very fabric of science. Now, let your mind drift eastward, across vast oceans and a few more years, to Tokyo in 1893. The laboratory here feels a little different. Perhaps the subtle aroma of Eastern spices mingles with the sterile scent of solvents. You watch Nagai Nagayoshi, his gaze equally focused, as he works with the botanical extracts of ephedrine. He is meticulous, seeking a concentrated essence, and then it crystallizes. You see it, delicate and pristine, perhaps catching the weak morning light like a tiny shard of ice, yet holding within it the burning fire of human ambition. This is methamphetamine, a more potent cousin, a substance that promises not just wakefulness, but an edge. You can almost hear the soft, internal whisper of possibility it offered to transcend the natural limitations of the body, to push beyond what was previously believed possible. It is beautiful in its crystalline form, almost innocent, unaware of the seismic shifts it would soon bring. The calendar pages turn again, arriving at 1919. The world has just emerged from the shadows of a devastating war, a global exhaustion settling over humanity. In this new era, Akira Ogata refines this gleaming crystal further, transforming it into a stable hydrochloride form. You understand the significance now. This potent energy has a shelf life. It can be stored, transported, preserved, ready to be deployed whenever and wherever the demand for sustained effort arises. It's no longer a fleeting laboratory curiosity. It's a tangible, durable product. You feel the subtle shift in the air, a collective breath held, as if the very concept of human fatigue is being reevaluated. The whispers of the burgeoning industrial age grow louder around you. They speak of efficiency, of progress, of constant forward motion. Fatigue, you hear them murmur, is merely a bug in the system, a flaw to be corrected, not a warning to be heeded. This molecule, this shining crystal, wasn't initially conceived to corrupt or destroy. Its genesis was far simpler, far more appealing. It was designed to make sleep optional. You can almost feel the allure of that promise. The idea of reclaiming precious hours, of extending productivity indefinitely. Humanity, in its tireless pursuit of advancement, had, with these tiny crystals, effectively bottled its first artificial sunrise inside a fragile glass vial. You observe this creation with a sense of quiet wonder, contemplating the profound, unforeseen consequences of such a seemingly benevolent scientific triumph. The world, you realize, is about to learn how to forget to rest. You are now transported to the crisp, tense air of Germany in 1938. The world itself seems to be holding its breath, poised on the brink of another colossal conflict. In this charged atmosphere, a pharmaceutical company, Temmler Werke, introduces a new product, Pervitin. You see the advertisements, perhaps in stark, angular fonts, proclaiming its efficacy with a chilling simplicity: 1 pill equals 3 cups of coffee. It is a promise of heightened vigilance, sustained focus, a perfect antidote to the encroaching shadows of doubt and exhaustion. You imagine the pills themselves, small and white, unassuming yet brimming with the power to redefine human limits. As the ominous drumbeat of war intensifies, Pervitin ceases to be a mere commercial product. By 1940, it has become an integral component of the German war machine, a secret weapon in plain sight. You visualize the vast, disciplined lines of soldiers, their eyes perhaps already heavy with the strain of relentless training, now receiving their allocated dose. A staggering 35 million tablets are issued to the Nazi army, not as a luxury, but as a perceived necessity. You feel the chilling efficiency of this decision, transforming human biology into a logistical advantage. These pills become the silent fuel for the blitzkrieg, enabling an unprecedented speed and intensity of conquest across Europe. You begin to hear, as if through the haze of history, the fragmented echoes of soldiers' diaries. You read entries describing relentless, forced marches stretching for 72 hours, the landscapes blurring into an endless, weary panorama. But then, the tone shifts. The accounts speak of hallucinations, grotesque distortions of reality born from the cruel deprivation of sleep. You sense the creeping paranoia, an insidious fog settling over the minds of men, leading to tragic instances of friendly fire, where allies become indistinguishable from phantoms in the desperate grip of psychosis. The initial promise of clarity and endurance dissolves into a terrifying descent into madness. And at the very apex of this military machine, you find yourself observing its most powerful figure, Adolf Hitler, his personal physician. Dr. Theodor Morell becomes the daily purveyor of this artificial energy. You envision the sterile glint of a syringe, its contents carefully administered, becoming the Führer's unconventional alarm clock. For him, Pervitin wasn't just a pick-me-up. It was a fundamental component of his waking existence. A chemical crutch for his boundless, yet increasingly erratic, ambition. You can almost feel the cold steel of the needle, a daily ritual that inextricably linked the fate of millions to the manufactured wakefulness of one man. In this chilling historical chapter, Pervitin transforms mere fatigue into an act of treason, a weakness that could not be tolerated. Madness, fueled by the relentless demands of the stimulant, was distorted into a grotesque semblance of strategic brilliance. The Reich, in its initial, terrifying thrust, conquered vast territories with astonishing speed, propelled by this enforced sleeplessness. But you also witness, with a sense of quiet inevitability, its eventual dramatic collapse. Not just from military might, but from the internal erosion of collective psychosis. You understand now the stark, cautionary truth. If productivity were indeed a medal, the Nazis, fueled by their sleepless empire, might have won it, only to overdose spectacularly on the bitter encore of their chemically sustained ambition. The cost of endless vigilance, you realize, is often the very sanity it seeks to preserve. The grim shadows of World War II begin to recede, but the aftermath, you find, casts its own unique darkness. You are now in post-war Japan, a landscape of rubble and quiet despair, yet also a place of resolute determination to rebuild. What you discover is a stark, almost perverse legacy of the war, the widespread presence of Philippon, or shabu. These were the pills that once fortified soldiers for battle, now repurposed, repackaged for the weary workers and students of a nation trying to rise from its knees. You see the subtle, desperate hope in the eyes of those who embraced it, clinging to anything that promised strength and the ability to endure. Between 1946 and 1951, a silent epidemic sweeps through the shattered yet resilient society. Over 1 million Japanese citizens become ensnared by the drug's potent grip. You observe students, their faces pale and drawn, cramming for days on end, fueled by the relentless energy of shabu, their minds pushed beyond all natural limits. You see laborers, their muscles aching from the back-breaking work of reconstruction, toiling tirelessly in the skeletal remains of cities, their exhaustion temporarily masked by this victory medicine. It is a testament to the human spirit's will to survive and rebuild. Yet tragically, it is also a testament to its vulnerability. The official reports from this era paint a grim, sobering picture. Police records from the time describe shabu not just as a drug, but as a force with a dual nature, the drug that rebuilt Tokyo and destroyed its soul. You feel the profound weight of this statement, recognizing the immense paradox. On one hand, the tangible progress, the rising infrastructure. On the other, the invisible erosion of families, of individuals, of the very essence of human connection. You witness the painful disintegration of family units, as the subtle, insidious influence of hallucinations begins to replace the fundamental human need for nourishment, for rest, for genuine interaction. The lines between reality and delusion blur, leaving a wake of quiet devastation. Eventually, the government, recognizing the escalating crisis, bans the substance. But you understand that such legislative measures are often slow to catch up with the entrenched habits of a populace. The demand, the craving, does not simply vanish. Instead, a new, more clandestine phenomenon emerges. Addicts, desperate to maintain their artificial wakefulness, begin to teach others the forbidden art of cooking it, transforming the once prescribed medicine into a street-level commodity. You see the makeshift labs, the whispered instructions, the passing on of a dangerous knowledge that guarantees a continued supply of oblivion. The peace that settled over Japan after the war, you realize, did not halt the relentless internal battle for many. It merely shifted the arena, changing the recipe for self-destruction. The promise of boundless energy, once a tool for national revival, had, in its unchecked proliferation, become a slow-acting poison, leaving behind a legacy of profound addiction and societal scars. You reflect on how the desperate need for resilience, for a way to overcome overwhelming adversity, can sometimes lead to an embrace of solutions that ultimately carry a far greater hidden cost. The nation rebuilt its structures, but the price, you intuit, was often paid in the fractured pieces of human lives and souls. As your journey through time continues, you cross the vast expanse of the Pacific, landing in America during the vibrant, optimistic decades of the 1950s and early 1960s. Here, the narrative of stimulants takes a distinctly different, yet equally potent, turn. You observe a society basking in post-war prosperity, brimming with a seemingly boundless enthusiasm for progress and the pursuit of an idealized American dream. In this era, speed, in various forms, is not just legal, it's widely accepted, even celebrated, under friendly, comforting names: Benzedrine, Dexedrine, Obitrol. You see them advertised in magazines, on television, in doctors' offices, presented as a benign aid for a bustling new age. You are drawn to the glossy advertisements of the time, their imagery reflecting a pristine, aspirational lifestyle. They speak directly to the pressures faced by the modern American woman, the quintessential housewife striving for perfection. Stay slim, stay happy, stay married, take your morning pep pill, the captions might declare, promising an effortless balance of domestic bliss and personal vitality. You sense the subtle coercion, the unspoken expectation for perpetual energy and cheerfulness in an era that glorified tireless homemaking and social engagement. But the appeal extends far beyond the domestic sphere. You see the long-haul truckers, their eyes heavy from endless miles on newly built interstates, reaching for a little white pill to push through the night. You envision soldiers, still reeling from past conflicts or preparing for new ones, relying on laboratory-produced adrenaline to maintain peak readiness. And you watch students, striving for academic excellence, using these pills as a shortcut to sustained focus, cramming for exams through the night, chasing the elusive promise of an extra edge. The nation, it seems, has collectively embraced the idea that human performance can and should be optimized by chemical means. You encounter the ghost of Jack Kerouac, the iconic voice of the Beat generation. You imagine him hunched over his typewriter, a frantic energy coursing through his veins, fueled by Benzedrine. He writes on the road in an astonishing 3 days, a torrent of words pouring onto the page, embodying the restless spirit of his time. Yet, you also sense the profound cost of this chemically induced burst of creativity. The decade of depression that followed, the slow unraveling, stands as a stark testament to the unforgiving debt exacted by such artificial highs. You feel the poignant irony the very pursuit of an expanded experience often leads to a diminished one. In this vibrant, yet increasingly anxious, American landscape, exhaustion begins to be redefined. It is no longer a natural human state, but rather a perceived sin, a barrier to be overcome. Ambition, once a purely internal drive, subtly transforms into a medical prescription, a goal to be achieved with the aid of a capsule. You hear the unspoken mantra of the age: if God made 24 hours, Americans wanted 36. It's a relentless pursuit of more, a boundless hunger for productivity and experience. A nation that had perhaps once feared the silence and vulnerability of sleep now found itself, quite unconsciously, worshipping at the altar of the stimulant. You perceive the seeds of a profound societal shift, where the natural rhythms of life slowly begin to yield to the relentless hum of artificial energy. The gentle hum of respectable pharmaceutical labs begins to fade, replaced by the gritty, low rumble of motorcycle engines and the clandestine clink of glassware in hidden spaces. You find yourself now in the early 1970s, as America attempts to rein in the widespread availability of stimulants. The Controlled Substances Act outlaws meth, pushing it from the doctor's office into the shadows. But you observe a fundamental truth: human desire for artificial energy, once unleashed, does not simply vanish with a new law. Instead, it adapts, morphs, and seeks new, illicit channels. This era introduces you to a new kind of alchemist, far removed from the sterile labs of Berlin or Tokyo. You step into the world of outlaw biker gangs like the Hells Angels and the Mongols. Their sanctuaries are not pristine scientific facilities, but rather dusty, oil-stained garages, hidden in the sprawling deserts or tucked away in forgotten industrial zones. Here, under the flickering bare bulbs, these groups begin to build their own secret laboratories. Their chosen precursor is P2P, or phenyl-2-propanone, a chemical far less refined than its pharmaceutical predecessors. From these makeshift operations, a new beast emerges: crank. You sense its raw, unpolished nature. It's stronger, dirtier, often imbued with the harshness of its improvised creation. You imagine the crude equipment, perhaps even discarded engine parts repurposed for chemical reactions, all designed to skirt the edges of the law. The very name crank conjures an image of forced, unnatural energy, a grating, relentless push. You feel the stark contrast to the earlier, clinical forms of the drug. This is not about gentle awakening, but a violent jolt. The year 1979 brings a telling snapshot of this burgeoning underground empire. You witness a raid by California police on a biker compound, resulting in the seizure of a staggering 500 gallons of liquid meth. You try to grasp the sheer volume, the scale of this illicit production, recognizing that this wasn't just a handful of individuals cooking up small batches. This was an organized, determined effort to meet a growing, insatiable demand. The desert, once a symbol of wild freedom, now held the secrets of a volatile, dangerous chemistry. For these bikers, meth wasn't merely a drug in the conventional sense. You understand their perspective. It was freedom in powder form. It represented a defiance of societal norms, an extension of their rebellious ethos. It provided the relentless energy needed for their long rides, their all-night parties, their confrontations, and their unwavering solidarity. It was a tangible expression of their rejection of a world that demanded conformity and rest. You perceive the subtle, almost spiritual transformation if science had given birth to the molecule. These outlaws, in their gritty, determined way, had given it a religion, a creed of boundless, self-made power. Meth had left the hospitals and found a new, wild holiness, not in sacred texts, but in the desolate, sun-baked expanses of the desert. As the calendar pages turn to the 1990s, you witness a profound shift in the empire of exhaustion. The isolated backyard operations of the biker gangs begin to recede in significance, overshadowed by a new, more formidable power. Your gaze is now drawn southward, across the border to Mexico, where the Amezcua brothers emerge as silent architects of a global enterprise. In an astonishing display of logistical prowess, They begin to import vast quantities of ephedrine, 170 tons from distant lands, like India and Thailand, the raw material for an unprecedented scale of meth production. You grasp the sheer audacity and ambition of this operation, recognizing it as a strategic move that would redefine the drug trade. The year 1994 serves as a stark revelation. In Dallas, authorities make a seizure that sends ripples of alarm across the continent. 3.4 tons of meth, a colossal haul. You try to envision the sheer volume, the incredible number of potential doses, an estimated 2 billion from this single shipment alone. It's a moment that exposes, with chilling clarity, the existence of a meticulously organized global pipeline, a vast network designed to deliver manufactured wakefulness on an industrial scale. This isn't small-time dealing. This is the corporate behemoth of illicit substances. You see the rise of super labs, massive, highly organized production facilities that spring up, particularly in California's Central Valley. These are not the crude garages of earlier decades, but sophisticated operations capable of churning out what one might call industrial clarity. The purity of the meth reaching the streets soars, hitting an unprecedented 95%. You understand the implications. A purer product is a more potent product, more addictive, more devastating. Consequently, addiction rates across the United States explode. A silent, pervasive epidemic sweeping through communities, leaving an invisible trail of shattered lives. A DEA agent, reflecting on this period, offers a chillingly precise observation. This isn't narcotics, it's the assembly line of alertness. You feel the weight of these words, understanding that the cartels are not merely selling a drug, they are commodifying a state of being, manufacturing a potent, albeit temporary, form of human consciousness. America, in its global influence, had long exported its culture, its music, its movies, its fashion. Now, in a perverse exchange, Mexico, through these powerful cartels, was exporting a chemically altered form of consciousness, flooding the market with manufactured energy. You perceive the unsettling irony, a dark parallel to the consumer culture of the age. If well-known corporations sold branded happiness, the cartels, with their crystalline product, were selling energy, but with profoundly destructive, hidden cavities that eroded the very fabric of human life. The quiet ambition of earlier scientists, the desperation of war-torn nations, the rebellion of outlaw gangs, all now converge in a highly efficient, ruthlessly effective global supply chain, turning the demand for endless energy into an empire of unprecedented scale and devastating reach. The relentless narrative of adaptation and evasion continues, evolving once more as laws tighten their grip. You arrive in the year 2006, observing the U.S. government's attempt to curb meth production by limiting the sale of pseudoephedrine, a key precursor to just 2 boxes per week. It is a logical step, a legislative barrier intended to choke the supply from its source. Yet, you also understand that desperation, when fueled by addiction, is endlessly resourceful. You witness the ingenious, yet terrifying adaptation that emerges from this restriction. Addicts, driven by an insatiable craving, develop a new method, a grim ingenuity born of necessity. They become smurfs, fanning out to different stores, pooling their meager allowance of pseudoephedrine pills. And then, in a chilling testament to amateur chemistry, they combine these pills with household lye, lithium from batteries, and even liquid gas, all within the confines of a simple 2-liter soda bottle. This is the birth of shake and bake meth. Meth. You hear the stories, the hushed warnings, the growing unease. The consequences of this desperate innovation are immediate and horrifying. You visualize the scenes, hundreds of explosions erupting across the country, turning ordinary homes into blast zones. Bathtubs, once sanctuaries of cleansing, become sites of chemical reactions gone terribly wrong. The domestic sphere, typically a place of safety, is transformed into a landscape of danger and unintended destruction. You feel the tremor of these unforeseen explosions, not just in the physical sense, but in the psychological landscape of communities now grappling with this terrifying new reality. One anecdote encapsulates the tragic absurdity of it all. You hear of a Kansas grandmother attempting to test a small batch to save gas money, blowing up her blender in her kitchen. The imagery is stark and heartbreaking. A seemingly innocuous household appliance transformed into an instrument of destruction, all in the pursuit of a fleeting high and a desperate attempt to conserve meager resources. It's a powerful illustration of how the insidious tendrils of addiction can reach into the most unexpected corners of everyday life, twisting mundane objects into dangerous tools. The law, in its well-intentioned effort to dismantle large-scale meth labs, inadvertently gave birth to a far more decentralized and often more dangerous form of chemistry. You realize that while organized labs were suppressed, the knowledge, the recipe, had democratized. Meth, once confined to specialized facilities or clandestine garages, now became accessible to virtually anyone with a bottle and a desperate desire. It was, in a profound and disturbing sense, the democratization of madness, an invitation for individuals to become their own chemists, with devastating personal and communal consequences. You observe this era with a growing sense of disquiet, understanding that true control over the empire of exhaustion remains elusive, constantly shifting, perpetually adapting. Your journey brings you closer to the present, to a stark and sobering reality that casts a long shadow over the modern landscape. By the year 2020, you witness the culmination of decades of evolution in the empire of exhaustion. Cartel-produced meth now reaches an astonishing purity of 98%. It is a crystalline perfection. Yet its price has plummeted, often costing less than a simple pizza. You recognize the profound danger in this combination. Extreme potency made incredibly affordable, rendering it accessible to an ever-widening demographic. The insidious nature of the drug has reached a new, terrifying peak. The statistics from this period paint a devastating portrait of a nation in crisis. Over 2.5 million Americans are grappling with addiction, their lives consumed by the relentless cycle. In that single year, 33,000 deaths are directly tied to meth, each number representing a shattered family, a life tragically cut short. You feel the weight of these figures, understanding them not as mere data points, but as echoes of immense suffering and loss. In places like Oregon, you observe the pervasive reach of the drug into the very fabric of society. A staggering 85% of property crimes, you learn, are linked to meth use, as individuals resort to desperate measures to fund their addiction. And perhaps even more heartbreaking, nearly half of all foster care cases in the state are connected to the drug, revealing the catastrophic impact on the most vulnerable among us children caught in the wake of their parents' addiction. You see the silent tears, the broken homes, the cycles of despair. A profound and tragic shift has occurred in the experience of those caught in meth's grip. Users no longer chase the initial euphoria. the boundless energy that once defined the drug's appeal. Instead, their desperate pursuit is far more fundamental. They chase the elusive memory of feeling normal. You recognize the profound tragedy in this, a life reduced to a constant struggle to recapture a semblance of baseline existence. A fleeting moment of peace that recedes further with each use. The before and after meth images that circulate during this time serve as a brutal national mirror, reflecting the devastating physical and psychological toll. You see the raw, unfiltered evidence of rapid aging, tooth decay, skin lesions, and the vacant, haunted eyes, visual testaments to a life consumed. An officer's poignant observation resonates deeply with you. Meth doesn't kill you fast. It lets time do it slow. It is a slow motion unraveling, a gradual erosion of self, a prolonged agony that extends far beyond the immediate high. You reflect on the chilling final thought presented: we are all addicted to something socially acceptable. It's a subtle yet powerful indictment, suggesting that the drive for constant stimulation and productivity, in its various forms, pervades much of modern life, albeit often in guises deemed less destructive. The empire of exhaustion, you realize, has truly taken hold, shaping the very landscape of our collective consciousness. The narrative takes an unexpected turn, drawing you into the flickering glow of screens and the collective consciousness of popular culture. You are now immersed in the era between 2008 and 2013, the years that witnessed the phenomenon of Breaking Bad. This groundbreaking television series, you observe, didn't just depict meth, it elevated it, transforming it from a mere illicit substance into a complex, modern mythology. It became a lens through which society grappled with ambition, morality, and the quiet desperation of the everyday. You are introduced to Walter White, the show's central figure, a seemingly ordinary high school chemistry teacher, a father struggling with illness, who, in his dramatic transformation, becomes a prophet of exhaustion. He embodies the relentless pursuit of self-actualization. Albeit through increasingly illicit means, Walter White, in his green shirt and pork pie hat, becomes a global icon, a figure of fascination whose journey from mild-mannered educator to ruthless drug lord captivates millions. You feel the magnetic pull of his story, recognizing the dark allure of a man pushed to the brink, who finds power in forbidden knowledge. The cultural impact is swift and undeniable. You witness reports detailing a staggering 200% rise in the sales of lab kits after the first season of Breaking Bad aired. It is a chilling testament to the power of media, a blurring of the lines between fictional entertainment and real-world imitation. The show didn't just entertain, it educated, in a sense, offering a tantalizing glimpse into the forbidden art of chemistry. The phrase, "I am the one who knocks," echoes far beyond the confines of the television screen. You hear it repeated, paraphrased, understood as a mantra of the sleepless age. A declaration of control and defiance against a world that demands both relentless effort and quiet submission. It speaks to a deep-seated desire for agency, for the ability to shape one's own destiny, even if it means stepping into the darkest corners of human endeavor. A profound and unsettling shift occurs in the collective mindset. Culture, you realize, begins to move beyond simply condemning meth. Instead, there's a creeping, almost intellectual admiration for its underlying logic, the efficiency, the scientific precision, the sheer audacity of its creation. The allure of the forbidden, combined with a compelling narrative, transforms public perception. You consider the poignant observation: once kids dreamed of space, now they dream of chemistry. It's a powerful metaphor for a generation captivated by the intricate, dangerous world depicted on screen, where scientific knowledge could be wielded for immense, albeit destructive, power. The line between education and addiction, between scientific curiosity and illicit creation, becomes irrevocably blurred, shimmering under the stark, fluorescent light of a world grappling with its own complex desires. You stand at the threshold of the present, gazing into the evolving landscape of the 2020s, and what you see is a fully realized empire of exhaustion. The narrative doesn't conclude. It simply deepens and expands, revealing the profound entrenchment of this chemically induced wakefulness in modern society. In 2023, you observe the cartel Jalisco New Generation CJNG asserting its dominance, now controlling an estimated 40% of the global meth trade. This is not just a drug operation. It is a transnational corporation of consciousness, wielding immense power and influence. Yet, the story of stimulants extends beyond the illicit. You turn your attention to the polished halls of universities and the bustling cubicles of corporate offices. Here, you find the softer cousins of meth. Substances like Adderall and various focus aids. These are the elegant, socially acceptable manifestations of the same underlying desire, the need to outpace fatigue, to maintain peak performance, to appear relentlessly productive. You recognize the subtle, yet powerful pressure within these environments, where the natural rhythms of rest are often seen as impediments to progress, making the appeal of such aids almost irresistible. The battlefield, you understand, has moved. It is no longer confined to actual war zones or the dark alleys of illicit trade. It has migrated within, into our very nervous systems. You feel the constant hum of internal pressure, the ceaseless demand to be on, to be alert, to be productive. Humanity, in this modern era, has become a vast, intricate battery that never truly rests, constantly charging, rapidly draining, then charging again, in a relentless, unforgiving cycle. The very essence of being human, the natural need for restoration and quiet, seems to be increasingly at odds with the demands of a perpetually accelerating world. Scientists, observing this pervasive phenomenon, have given it a fitting and chilling name they now call meth, the pandemic of exhaustion. You grasp the profound implications of this designation, recognizing that the struggle against fatigue has permeated every stratum of society, manifested in both illegal and sanctioned forms. It is a shared burden, a collective condition, a silent epidemic that touches nearly everyone, whether directly or indirectly. From the first isolated syntheses by Nagai in Tokyo, to the current global reach of cartels and the pervasive use of cognitive enhancers, every generation, you realize, has, in its own way, sworn it could outwork sleep. Each promised itself that it could transcend the fundamental biological imperative for rest, that human will and chemical ingenuity could conquer the oldest enemy of productivity. But the truth, you understand, is far more complex and enduring. The molecule, in its crystalline perfection, still waits under the sterile fluorescent light of laboratories and the dim glow of hidden labs alike. It remains silent, patient, and perpetually shining a stark, unwavering beacon in the empire of exhaustion, perhaps destined to burn brighter than we, in our relentless pursuit of artificial wakefulness, ever truly will. The quiet hum of its promise, you realize, will continue to echo through the ages, a constant temptation in a world that has forgotten how to simply be. You begin, you see, with a whisper. A voice, subtle and persuasive, suggests a singular, intoxicating thought. You feel like a king. This is where the story truly unfolds, not with a sudden, jarring crash, but with a seductive, almost ethereal promise. Methamphetamine, in its initial approach, doesn't arrive as a menacing poison. Instead, it presents itself as an extraordinary gift. It promises a boundless reservoir of power, an unshakable fortress of confidence, and an almost insatiable hunger for life itself, a yearning to consume every moment with unparalleled intensity. You are invited to believe that you are, at last, truly alive, truly in command. The very first encounter, for many, is described as nothing short of divine. Imagine, if you will, a surge of pure, vibrant energy, a silent current rushing through every single cell within your being. It's not merely an awakening. It is an explosion of sensation, a feeling of being utterly recharged, profoundly alive, beyond anything you have ever known. Your brain's intricate dopamine pathways, those delicate channels of pleasure and reward, don't merely activate. They erupt in a dazzling display, a cascade of internal fireworks. Each spark signifies a profound, artificial joy, a sense of well-being that seems to know no limits, no boundaries, no end. In this incandescent state, you perceive yourself as transcending the mundane constraints of human existence. Sleep, that essential restorative balm, becomes an irrelevant inconvenience, a forgotten requirement. The need for food, for nourishment, for the sustenance that grounds us to our physical reality, simply melts away, deemed unnecessary by this new, boundless energy. And fear, that primal, protective emotion guiding our caution and survival, recedes into a distant echo, a faint, almost laughable memory. In this manufactured euphoria, you believe yourself invulnerable, untouchable, utterly free from the chains of ordinary human needs. You laugh, a deep, resonant sound, at the very idea of these former limitations. You are, in this moment, a monarch surveying a vast, conquered domain, your senses alight, your spirit seemingly soaring. But, my dear listener, even as this brilliant, illusory euphoria washes over you, a hidden, far more insidious narrative is unfolding beneath the surface. Behind the dazzling curtain of perceived power and boundless confidence, small, vital cells within the very core of your brain embark upon a quiet, efficient journey of decay. They begin to die, not with a dramatic flourish or an urgent cry, but silently, systematically, like leaves falling from a tree in the dead of winter, unnoticed amidst the vibrant, fall spring. This internal demise happens without fanfare, without any immediate, perceptible sign of distress to your conscious mind. The crown of fire, though it feels glorious and empowering, is already beginning to scorch the very kingdom it purports to rule. You are undergoing the coronation of a king whose empire, even in its moment of greatest perceived triumph, is already subtly, yet irreversibly, collapsing from within. The initial rush, the promise of infinite vitality, is but a fleeting moment of stolen grace, a prelude to a slow, internal dissolution. Our journey continues, carrying us gently from the internal sensations of that first embrace to the very origins of this potent, synthetic deity, methamphetamine. Unlike natural alkaloids found in ancient plants, or earthy derivatives of age-old remedies, is a creature born not of sun-drenched fields or mystical forests, but from the sterile, precise environment of the laboratory. Its purity is synthetic, its very essence crafted by human ingenuity, a testament to the complex alchemy of modern chemistry. You can almost envision its physical form, blue ice, they call it, or crystal shards, shimmering with an almost hypnotic allure, catching the light like scattered jewels, promising untold riches to those who gaze upon its deceptive brilliance. It appears, to the eager eye, like treasure, a coveted gem in the lexicon of illicit substances, belying its true, destructive nature. The story of its genesis is not new. It emerged in the early stretches of the 20th century, a time when medical science was rapidly advancing, often with a blend of innovation and naivete. Doctors of that era, observing its potent stimulant effects, hailed it as a miracle stimulant. Imagine the hushed reverence, the hopeful whispers as this new compound was introduced, offering a seemingly instant solution to a myriad of human woes, from fatigue to melancholy. It was perceived as a breakthrough, a benevolent chemical intervention designed to elevate and enhance human capacity. And so, its influence began to spread subtly at first, then more widely touching the lives of disparate groups, each seeking a specific boon from this new chemical god. Soldiers on the battlefields, facing exhaustion and the grim realities of war, found in its crystalline embrace a way to push past the limits of human endurance, to remain vigilant and awake for days on end, sacrificing rest for relentless duty. Students, burning the midnight oil in pursuit of academic excellence, discovered a potent ally in their quest for focus and sustained mental effort, enabling them to cram for exams or complete daunting assignments. Even long-haul truckers, traversing vast stretches of highways, mile after weary mile, found in its artificial energy a means to conquer the relentless pull of sleep, to deliver their cargo on schedule, pushing physical boundaries for economic necessity. All of them, in their unique circumstances, believed they had found an unparalleled source of focus, a secret weapon against the human condition's inherent limitations. With this newfound chemical assistance, a remarkable transformation seemed to occur. The natural, insistent pangs of appetite, the body's gentle reminder for nourishment, simply vanished, receding into an almost imperceptible background hum. Food, like sleep, became an afterthought, deemed unnecessary in the face of such boundless, artificial energy. Efficiency, once a goal, morphed into an obsession. Every task, every goal, every waking moment was approached with a relentless, almost frenetic drive, a singular focus on achieving, producing, doing more. You found yourself, in those moments, capable of an intensity you never thought possible, believing you were unlocking dormant potential, reaching new zeniths of productivity. Yet, this profound, enduring stimulation, this relentless drive, is not, as it may appear, a true manifestation of strength. It is, rather, a deceptive loan, a fleeting moment of borrowed time. The drug, in its artificial benevolence, doesn't possess the capacity to genuinely heal the underlying fatigue that plagues the human body and mind. Instead, it merely masks it, cloaks it in a veil of chemical exhilaration, pushing it deeper, allowing it to accumulate, silent and unseen. It hides the burgeoning exhaustion, suppresses the body's cries for rest, until, inevitably, that hidden fatigue swells, becoming an overwhelming, consuming force. You are left not with restored vigor, but with a profound, unpayable debt. A debt your body and mind will eventually demand. With interest. The chemical god, it turns out, extracts a heavy price for its temporary miracles, leaving behind not true strength, but a hollowed-out echo of vitality. And now, we drift deeper into the very neural pathways where this chemical god exerts its most profound influence, a realm of intricate biological machinery. Methamphetamine, in its cunning design, doesn't merely tickle the edges of your perception. It ruthlessly hijacks the very command centers of your brain's pleasure and motivation systems. It seizes control of dopamine, that neurotransmitter responsible for feelings of reward and delight, flooding your synapses with an unprecedented, overwhelming torrent. But it doesn't stop there. It also manipulates serotonin, which governs mood and well-being, and noradrenaline, vital for alertness and focus. The delicate balance, the finely tuned symphony of your brain's chemistry, is utterly disrupted, thrown into a chaotic, yet initially exhilarating, disarray. In this chemically induced tempest, your mind finds itself drowning in an ocean of pleasure. It is a pleasure so intense, so all-encompassing, that it eclipses all other sensations, all other thoughts. Yet, it is a pleasure that is fundamentally artificial, profoundly unearned. You haven't worked for it. You haven't achieved a goal. You haven't nurtured a connection. It is simply there, a vast, shimmering illusion, generated by the relentless chemical assault. You bask in its warmth, believing it to be the purest form of happiness, unaware of its counterfeit nature. With this artificial flood comes a distorted sense of mental prowess. Problem solving, normally a deliberate and challenging process, morphs into a manic, frenzied activity. Thoughts race at breakneck speed. Connections seem to leap across neural gaps with blinding clarity, and solutions appear with an almost hallucinatory brilliance. Your confidence, buoyed by the relentless dopamine surge, swells to colossal proportions, transforming into an unshakable delusion. You perceive yourself as brilliant, infallible, capable of conquering any intellectual challenge, of unraveling the most complex puzzles with effortless ease. You feel as if the very fabric of the universe is bending to your will, your intellect sharpened to an unimaginable degree. But beneath this incandescent surface, a silent catastrophe is brewing. Your neurons, the very cells that transmit these rapid-fire thoughts and perceptions, are being pushed to their absolute limits. They fire and fire, relentlessly, without pause, without rest. This incessant activity, this supercharged expenditure of energy, begins to take a devastating toll. The delicate structures, the intricate connections that allow for coherent thought and stable function, begin to melt from overuse. Imagine a finely tuned engine revving at maximum capacity, hour after hour, day after day, without the lubrication or cooling it desperately needs. Eventually, its components begin to fuse, to wear down, to break apart. Your brain, in its relentless pursuit of this artificial clarity, is suffering a similar, catastrophic burnout. In this profound state of delusion, you genuinely believe you are not merely productive, but spectacularly so. You are convinced you are brilliant, perhaps even a genius, chosen for some grand purpose, set apart from the ordinary masses. This internal narrative, fueled by the chemical cocktail, becomes your unquestioned reality. The world outside, with its mundane demands and slower pace, seems to shrink. Its inhabitants mere shadows compared to your illuminated self. You are the architect of grand plans, the solver of impossible riddles, the visionary who sees beyond the veil. The truth, however, is far more somber, far more chilling. Your brain chemistry is not being enhanced. It is being systematically rewritten. The delicate equilibrium of neurotransmitters, the intricate dance of electrical impulses that define your very consciousness, is being permanently altered. It's like rewriting a complex piece of music, not to improve it, but to introduce discordant notes and jarring rhythms, until the original melody is lost entirely. Each triumphant rush, each soaring moment of artificial euphoria, leaves behind a scar. These scars are not visible to the naked eye. They leave no mark on your skin or outward appearance, but they are etched deep within the delicate tissues of your brain, invisible yet profoundly, irrevocably permanent. They are the silent, accumulating cost of the dopamine delusion, a price exacted for every fleeting moment of stolen bliss. As our gentle exploration continues, we now turn our attention to another layer of silent devastation unfolding within the brain's complex architecture. Beyond the neurons, which race and fire with such artificial brilliance, lie the unsung heroes of the mind, the glial cells. Imagine these as the diligent caretakers of your thoughts, the silent guardians and support structures that nurture, protect, and guide the delicate neuronal networks. They are the intricate scaffolding, the supply lines, the cleanup crew for the entire cerebral city. Yet, under the relentless assault of methamphetamine, these vital glial cells, too, begin their quiet journey toward oblivion. They start to perish, not with a sudden storm, but with a slow, almost imperceptible attrition, like grains of sand slowly slipping through an hourglass. With the gradual demise of these crucial caretakers, the higher functions of your mind, those uniquely human capabilities, begin to fray and unravel. The ability to plan, that intricate process of foresight and organization that allows you to navigate your day, to envision a future, to set and achieve goals, slowly, insidiously, fades away. What once felt like a clear path forward now becomes a murky, uncertain trail, difficult to discern, impossible to follow. Your judgment, that internal compass guiding your decisions and allowing you to discern right from wrong, safe from perilous, crumbles subtly, like an ancient wall slowly yielding to the elements. The capacity for sound, rational thought, for making wise choices, is gradually eroded, leaving you adrift in a sea of impulsive, often illogical reactions. And empathy, that profound human connection that allows you to feel and understand the emotions of others, to bridge the gap between self and community, dissolves into a distant, almost forgotten sensation. The world becomes a collection of detached observations, its inhabitants merely figures without emotional depth, without resonance. The very drug that once promised clarity, that offered the illusion of razor-sharp focus and unparalleled insight, now becomes the architect of your mind's confusion. It clouds every decision, infusing even the simplest choice with an overwhelming sense of uncertainty and doubt. What once seemed straightforward now appears shrouded in a bewildering mist. Your mind, once a sanctuary of coherent thought, slowly, agonizingly, transforms into a labyrinth of paranoia. Every shadow seems to hold a hidden threat. Every rustle of leaves suggests a secret observer. Every glance from a stranger carries a sinister meaning. The world, once a place of relative order, becomes a sprawling, intricate conspiracy. with you at its terrifying, fragile center. Within this labyrinth, your own thoughts, once a source of comfort and guidance, turn against you. Each internal voice, each fleeting idea, echoes and reverberates, distorted by a pervasive chemical static. It's as if an invisible interference permeates your very consciousness, twisting clear intentions into ambiguous suspicions, transforming innocent observations into menacing omens. The internal monologue, which should be a clear, guiding stream, becomes a cacophony of conflicting, unsettling whispers. You hear the whispers, feel their chilling embrace, but you cannot quite grasp their source, their meaning, their ultimate intent. Through all of this, a stubborn, poignant illusion persists. Despite the crumbling judgment, the dissolving empathy, the creeping paranoia, you still feel powerful. That initial surge of kingly confidence, though now fractured and distorted, remains a core tenet of your self-perception. You cling to this fragmented image of strength, convinced of your own formidable presence, even as the evidence to the contrary mounts both internally and externally. But you cannot see, in your clouded state, that you are, in fact, steadily disintegrating. Your true self, the person you once were, is slowly, silently, shattering like glass. The reflection in that glass, once so clear and identifiable, is gone, replaced by a fractured, distorted image that holds no true resemblance to the person you once knew, a person now lost within the growing silence of your own mind. Our journey of observation now carries us into another poignant and often tragic aspect of this particular path: the creation of a peculiar, almost ghostly, companionship. Methamphetamine, in its insidious nature, seems to possess a magnetic pull for company, but it is a company drawn not from shared joy or genuine connection, but from a shared state of brokenness. You find yourself, slowly but surely, drawn into clusters, into groups of individuals who are all navigating the same hallucinatory waters, the same internal chaos. Together, you laugh a strange, disjointed sound, echoing through the halls of developing psychosis, each unaware of the true depth of the other's internal struggle, each convinced they are the sane one in a world gone mad. In these gatherings, conversations unfold not as harmonious exchanges, but as frenetic, overlapping torrents of words. Ideas race ahead of coherence. Sentences intertwine without ever truly connecting. Each person speaks, often loudly and rapidly, but rarely listens, caught in their own spiraling thoughts and perceptions. It's a symphony of discord, where individual voices vie for attention, expressing fragments of insight or elaborate delusions. Yet none truly reach, none truly grasp the meaning intended by another. The interaction, though outwardly social, remains profoundly isolating. You are surrounded by voices, by bodies. Yet the essence of true human connection, of deep understanding, remains stubbornly out of reach, like mist slipping through your fingers. As this strange community forms around the drug, the vibrant, complex outside world begins its slow fade, receding into a realm of suspicion and noise. The familiar rhythm of daily life, the comforting predictability of friends and family, the vibrant tapestry of society all become distant, distorted, and ultimately threatening. Every external interaction is filtered through a lens of paranoia. The innocent murmur of neighbors becomes a whispered plot. The everyday sounds of traffic transform into an alarming clamor. Your perception narrows. focusing almost exclusively on the immediate, chemically altered present, seeing only threats and irritations in what once brought comfort. The gentle, persistent calls from family, those threads of enduring love and concern, begin to go unanswered. The ringing of the phone becomes an intrusive assault, a symbol of the world you are actively retreating from. You no longer possess the emotional bandwidth, or perhaps even the desire, to engage with their worries, their pleas, their longing for your presence. And the mirrors, those silent arbiters of self-reflection, are covered, turned to the wall, or simply avoided. To gaze into them would be to confront a truth too painful, too stark, too far removed from the imagined king you still believe yourself to be. The face reflected there is no longer your own, but a stranger's, a ghost of what once was, a stark testament to the quiet unraveling. Your eyes, in this state, are wide, almost perpetually open, reflecting a light that is no longer human, but rather the frantic flicker of sleeplessness and overstimulation. Your jaws, locked tight in a constant tension, betray the internal strain, the restless energy coursing through your system. This, then, is the tribe of the sleepless, a congregation bound by chemical intoxication, existing in a perpetual twilight state, where the lines between reality and hallucination blur and vanish. You are together. Yes, physically proximate, sharing the same space, perhaps even the same pipe, but in the most profound and essential sense, you are utterly, completely alone, sealed within your own private, chemical kingdom, watching the world through a pane of distorted glass. The warmth of true connection has been replaced by the cold comfort of shared delusion, and the echo of isolation reverberates, even in a crowd. Our gentle, unhurried journey now leads us to the physical manifestations of this profound internal transformation. A landscape where sleep deprivation, like a relentless sculptor, begins to carve grotesque new forms out of once familiar faces. You begin to witness the insidious creep of exhaustion, morphing features, etching deep lines of strain and weariness into the very skin. The eyes, once bright and clear, become sunken, shadowed, their light replaced by a restless, almost frenetic flicker that is unmistakably no longer human. They reflect not warmth or clarity, but the relentless, exhausting, unnatural energy that has consumed your being. One of the most chilling and distressing phenomena to emerge from this prolonged chemical siege is the onset of hallucinations. You begin to perceive things that simply aren't there. The sensation of insects crawling just beneath the surface of your skin. An unseen menace creating an intolerable itch. This maddening sensation, known as formication, drives you to a desperate, compulsive response. You find yourself picking, scratching, digging at your skin, sometimes for hours on end, attempting to dislodge these phantom invaders until the flesh becomes raw, broken, and begins to bleed. These self-inflicted wounds, small but numerous, become a visible testament to the invisible torment within a roadmap of the mind's slow descent into madness, etched onto the very canvas of your body. Simultaneously, the relentless pace of activity, combined with the almost complete abandonment of nourishment, begins to melt away your physical substance. Weight vanishes, not gradually, but in stark, dramatic measure. Your frame, once perhaps solid and vibrant, becomes gaunt, almost skeletal. Ribs, once hidden beneath flesh, emerge starkly, prominently, becoming what one might call confession lines on your chest, each one a silent, bony testament to the profound neglect and the destructive power of the chemical. Your clothes, once fitting, now hang loosely, a stark visual representation of the person you once were, now hollowed out, consumed. The transformation is undeniable, an outward mirroring of the inner devastation. As these physical changes manifest, a chilling realization begins to dawn, though often only to those who observe you from the outside. Your body, despite its emaciation and its self-inflicted wounds, is still moving. You walk, you talk, you engage in actions, sometimes with a frenetic energy that defies natural human limits. But the person, the essence of who you are, the soul that once animated that form, seems to have quietly, subtly left. There is a disconnect, a void, as if an empty vessel continues to operate, driven by a phantom engine, but without the original pilot at the helm. It is a profoundly unsettling sight, a poignant observation of a life lived by proxy, by chemical command, rather than by genuine will or presence. Methamphetamine, you see, doesn't execute its destructive work overnight. It is not a sudden, explosive force that annihilates in a single, dramatic moment. Instead, it operates through a process of slow, relentless erosion, a meticulous deconstruction enacted by routine. Each dose, each high, each sleepless night contributes to this gradual wearing away, this systematic dismantling of mind and body. The changes, initially subtle, accumulate with terrifying consistency. And so, each sunrise, rather than bringing the promise of a new day and fresh beginnings, instead ushers in a new, slightly more advanced version of decay. You wake, perhaps, but not to renewal. You awaken to another chapter in the story of erosion, another quiet step further down the path. Each new day, a deeper immersion into the somber landscape of your altered reality. A fresh testament to the slow, steady unraveling of your very being. We continue our quiet observation, now turning to the profound and often heartbreaking chasm that opens between your self-perception and the stark reality witnessed by others. In your altered state, you genuinely see confidence radiating from your very being. You feel a surge of power, a sharp wit, an undeniable charm. You believe you are articulate, persuasive, in full command of every situation. Yet, to those who observe you from the outside, the picture is terrifyingly different. They see chaos, not control. They see a frantic energy that borders on mania, a desperate intensity that pushes people away rather than drawing them in. The confident king you imagine yourself to be is, to the world, a figure of increasing alarm, a specter of erratic behavior. The symptoms that accompany this internal delusion are stark and undeniable to the external eye. Your speech, once perhaps measured and thoughtful, becomes rapid, a torrent of words tumbling out without pause or punctuation, often jumping from one grandiose idea to the next without logical connection. You articulate elaborate, almost impossible, grand plans, schemes of wealth or influence that betray a complete disconnect from practical reality. And your hands, once steady and purposeful, betray the internal storm with a constant twitching, a restless tremor that underscores the profound agitation simmering beneath the surface. These are not the signs of a person in control, but of one teetering on the precipice of an unraveling. You, in your chemically induced state, might believe yourself to be charming, witty, and deeply engaging, captivating those around you with your energy and insight. The reflection you see in your mind's eye is one of charisma and magnetism. But the truth, as perceived by others, is far more chilling. They are not charmed, they are terrified. They witness the rapid shifts in mood, the flashes of unwarranted aggression, the unsettling intensity in your eyes. They recoil from the unpredictable nature of your behavior, the way your voice can rise suddenly, the paranoid accusations that might emerge without warning. What feels like charm to you is, to them, a palpable threat, a source of profound unease and fear. Each successive high, each intoxicating surge of dopamine, comes with a devastating, cumulative cost. It burns away not just energy, but the very foundations of your mental architecture. Memory, that precious faculty that connects you to your past and allows you to learn and grow, begins to deteriorate, leaving behind only fragmented images and forgotten events. Judgment, the ability to make sound decisions and assess risks, is relentlessly scorched, leading to increasingly reckless and self-destructive choices. And restraint, that vital brake on impulsive desires and inappropriate actions, is utterly incinerated, leaving you with little to no control over your urges or words. These are not temporary losses. They are deep, persistent wounds to the very core of your cognitive being. As these faculties erode, your perception of time itself begins to lose its anchor. Days bleed together, merging into an indistinguishable continuum, without the familiar markers of sunrise and sunset, work and rest. The concept of yesterday, today, and tomorrow becomes a blurred, shifting landscape, making it impossible to plan, to anticipate, or to fully grasp the passage of moments. The clear, linear progression of life, which once provided comfort and structure, dissolves into a confusing, swirling vortex. Reality, that shared, objective truth we all inhabit, begins to bend, slowly at first, distorting familiar shapes and sounds, twisting accepted facts into terrifying fictions. And then, inevitably, it snaps. The fragile thread connecting you to a consensual reality breaks, leaving you adrift in a world of your own, making a world defined by delusion and paranoia. The mirror, if you dare to look, may still smile back, but the unsettling truth is laid bare. It's not you anymore, not you. The person you once recognized, the self you once knew, has been irrevocably altered, replaced by a phantom reflection of the chemical's relentless dominion. Our quiet journey through the mind's unraveling now arrives at a landscape of profound desolation, the stark and undeniable truth of an empire built on fleeting promises. The initial illusion of kingly power has dissolved, leaving behind a kingdom reduced to dust. You find yourself in a state of utter deprivation. No food graces your table. No restorative rest eases your weary body. No true friends offer comfort or solace. There is only one solitary, relentless pursuit that governs every waking, agonizing moment the next hit. It is the sole remaining imperative, the singular focus in a world stripped bare of all other meaning. Every thought, every action, every flicker of will is bent towards this one desperate objective, pushing all else into irrelevance. Your living space, once perhaps a home, a sanctuary, slowly transforms. It becomes a shrine, a solemn, almost sacred, altered to the drug that now dictates your existence. Rooms are littered not with personal treasures or cherished memories, but with the stark utilitarian remnants of consumption, crumpled pieces of aluminum foil, blackened glass pipes, the faint, acrid smell of smoke clinging to every surface. These artifacts are the only decorations, the only markers of a life now entirely defined by the chemical ritual. The king you once imagined yourself to be now holds dominion over an empire of ashes and ghosts, a realm devoid of substance, teeming only with the spectral presence of what once was. Methamphetamine, in its thorough and relentless destruction, robs you of more than just sleep, that vital restorative process. It also systematically incinerates your dreams, those vivid landscapes of hope, aspiration, and unconscious processing, the capacity to imagine, to envision a future, to craft narratives of possibility, slowly withers and dies. Your inner world, once rich with possibility and subconscious wanderings, becomes an empty canvas, devoid of the vibrant colors of aspiration. There is nothing left to imagine, nothing left to strive for, nothing left to yearn for beyond the immediate, fleeting promise of the next chemical embrace. The wellspring of creativity and future-oriented thought runs dry, leaving behind a desolate mental desert. Every pleasure receptor within your brain, once the delicate instruments that registered joy, delight, and satisfaction from the myriad experiences of life, has been scorched, relentlessly overstimulated to the point of exhaustion and damage. The ability to derive genuine pleasure from anything, a favorite song, a loved one's touch, the beauty of a sunset, the taste of a delicious meal, is severely diminished, if not entirely annihilated. The natural rewards that once made life rich and meaningful now elicit only a dull echo, a faint, almost imperceptible whisper of what once was. Your brain is a landscape of barren pleasure, where the seeds of joy can no longer take root. In this stark, post-apocalyptic internal landscape, the drug itself undergoes a grim transformation. It no longer bestows the intoxicating euphoria, the dazzling fireworks of dopamine, that marked the initial stages of its influence. That period of artificial bliss is long past, a distant, mocking memory. Instead, the drug now delivers only silence. It provides a momentary cessation of the profound, gnawing discomfort, a temporary reprieve from the crushing weight of emptiness and the relentless clamor of a broken mind. It is not pleasure that is sought, but the temporary absence of pain, a fleeting moment of quiet in the overwhelming noise of internal collapse. The empire, having been built on false promises and borrowed time, finally collapses, silently, irrevocably, from within, leaving only the echo of what once might have been, shrouded in dust. As our contemplative journey draws towards its close, we arrive at a particularly harrowing chapter, the inevitable aftermath, the slow, agonizing descent of withdrawal. The high, that incandescent, all-encompassing experience, doesn't simply vanish. Instead, it concludes with a brutal, almost cinematic precision, like a majestic curtain tearing in slow motion, revealing the stark, desolate stage beneath. The vibrant colors of euphoria rip apart, revealing a landscape of profound, inescapable discomfort. Every nerve ending seems to hum with an unbearable awareness. Your muscles, which once felt infused with boundless energy, now ache with a dull, persistent throbbing, a deep weariness that seems to permeate every fiber of your being. It's an exhaustion that no amount of sleep can alleviate, a pain that no simple rest can erase. Your mind, once so frenetically active, so brimming with racing thoughts and grandiose ideas, now empties. It becomes a vast, echoing void, a hollow chamber where thoughts struggle to form, where concentration is a monumental effort. The sharp clarity, however distorted, is replaced by a profound mental fog, a heavy, suffocating blankness that makes even the simplest cognitive task feel insurmountable. The very concept of pleasure, that once overwhelming sensation, now seems an impossible dream, utterly beyond your grasp. The ability to feel joy, or even simple contentment, has been systematically eradicated. In this agonizing state, your brain, having been so ruthlessly manipulated, now begs, pleads, for the dopamine that no longer exists in sufficient quantities. It is a biological scream, a desperate craving for the neurotransmitter that was once so abundantly, artificially supplied. But the wellspring has run dry. The delicate systems responsible for its natural production are exhausted, damaged, unwilling to respond. The chemical tap has been turned off, leaving a profound, insatiable emptiness. This biological desperation merges seamlessly with a profound emotional void. Depression seeps in, not as a sudden, acute sorrow, but as a black, pervasive tide, moving slowly, relentlessly, consuming every corner of your being. It is a suffocating blanket of despair, a profound sadness without a clear cause, an overwhelming sense of hopelessness that makes every breath feel heavy, every sound, no matter how faint or innocuous, becomes unbearable. The gentle hum of a refrigerator, the distant chirping of birds, the soft rustle of fabric, all these ordinary sounds are amplified, grating against raw nerves, transforming into piercing intrusions that assault your hypersensitive state. And every minute, every tick of the clock, stretches into an eternity. Time, which once bled together in a blurred rush, now slows to an excruciating crawl, each second heavy with discomfort, each moment an agonizing wait for relief that seems endlessly postponed. The hours are not merely long, they are hollow, echoing with your own internal suffering. In this dark, cavernous space of withdrawal, a stark truth emerges. Some individuals, through sheer endurance, medical intervention, and immense willpower, manage to survive this harrowing passage. They navigate the storm, emerging, however scarred, on the other side, but many others do not. The sheer intensity of the suffering, the profound despair, the relentless physical and mental torment proves too much. The body, with its remarkable resilience, embarks on a long, arduous journey of detoxification, slowly purging the chemical from its system, attempting to repair the damage. But the mind, that delicate and complex realm, still remembers. It remembers the crown. It remembers the rush. It remembers the promise of boundless power and artificial euphoria. And that memory, though distant, becomes a haunting echo, a phantom limb of pleasure that continues to ache. Long after the chemical god has departed, a subtle, persistent whisper in the hollow hours. Our quiet journey through the mind's unraveling now reaches its final, reflective chapter 1, that extends far beyond the immediate throes of withdrawal. Even years later, long after the physical tremors have ceased and the most acute psychological torments have faded, fragments of the drug's devastating reign remain. These are the persistent echoes, the haunting remnants of a kingdom built on illusion and dismantled by decay. You may find yourself still grappling with a pervasive paranoia, a lingering suspicion that subtly colors your interactions and observations. Shadows still seem to hold unseen threats, and innocent glances can still trigger a flicker of old anxieties, a whisper of past delusions. Memory loss, that insidious thief, often persists, leaving gaps in your personal history, blurring the details of significant events, making it difficult to fully reconstruct the narrative of your own life. And insomnia, the cruel companion of your drug-fueled days, often lingers, continuing to disrupt the restorative rhythms of sleep, leaving you in a perpetual state of subtle exhaustion, chasing rest that remains just out of reach. These are not just memories. They are functional impairments, persistent scars on the brain's ability to process and regulate itself. The addict's laughter, once a manic, disorienting sound, sometimes lingers in the skull, not as a joyous memory, but as a strange, almost disturbing feedback loop. It's a phantom sound, a ghostly resonance of a past state, a reminder of the false euphoria that once consumed you. Your dopamine systems, the very reward pathways that were so brutally hijacked and relentlessly overstimulated, are left scarred, deeply wounded. They struggle to recover their original function, their delicate balance forever compromised. The capacity for experiencing genuine, natural pleasure, for finding delight in the simple, profound joys of life, remains diminished, a muted chord where once there was a symphony. The ability to feel truly alive, without chemical assistance, becomes an ongoing challenge, a constant, uphill battle against a system that was fundamentally broken and may never fully heal. What began, for you, as the exhilarating, almost divine sensation of feeling alive, an awakening to boundless energy and unshakable confidence, slowly, inexorably, culminates in a different kind of existence, a living death. It is a life marked by the profound absence of vital human experiences, a life where joy is a distant memory and connection is a struggle. It is a state where the essence of your former self has been so thoroughly eroded that what remains is a shadow, an echo, a presence without the vibrant core of being. Methamphetamine, in its most chilling and profound deception, doesn't always deliver a swift, decisive death. Instead, its true horror lies in its protracted cruelty. It makes you forget you're dying. It allows you to continue existing, convinced of your own vitality, even as your mind and body are steadily consumed, piece by piece, by the insidious decay. You continue to breathe, to move, to occupy space. But the life within you, the essence of who you are, is steadily fading, unnoticed, unacknowledged. The throne, where you once imagined yourself a king, now stands empty, covered in the dust of forgotten promises and shattered dreams. But the echo of that brief, fiery reign, the memory of the crown that burned so brightly, never fully fades. It lingers, a quiet, persistent whisper in the hollowed-out chambers of the mind. And the brain that once felt infinite, boundless in its chemical glory, now whispers only one profound truth, a truth carved from the ruins of its own experience. Nothing, not even the most intoxicating illusion of power, lasts forever. The silence, after all the noise, is the most enduring legacy.